It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a broken bow savage. He can win another state title in track, drop 40 points on the hardwood, produce over 3,000 yards of offense by himself. Oh, and he can start in the outfield on a 26-6 top 5 AAA baseball team in the state. So he may not be Superman, but this in-state 5-star savage is really flipping close.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're brought to you by Game Time Tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off at your first purchase. Get in today with the best in the ticketing industry, Game Time Tickets. We're going to shift into the foosball conversation of the recruiting variety. We have obviously discussed ad nauseum about how important it is to lock down the in-state products. By and large, any university that's able to control the in-state production is typically going to have a very good run of success. Oklahoma State has been able to have a lot of successful seasons under Mike Gundy's tutelage without necessarily locking down the in-state product. It appears as though we have the opportunity to do so. Currently out recruiting OU, I think from a transfer portal perspective, we may be out recruiting them there as well. This is an opportunity to accentuate the fact that we have arrived. We're going to dominate this state for the foreseeable future. If we can grab Graden Hal out of Broken Bow, Oklahoma, we're probably in good. And this is an individual who could play multiple sports in college right here, right now. Matter of fact, he has offers from Miami, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Stanford, Sac State, UTSA. The list goes on and on and on. Some of the offers are for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, cornerback, safety, athlete. You name it, he can do it. He's also averaging over 27 points a game in basketball, which might actually be his better sport. Not to mention the fact he's a state title recipient in the 400 meters in track, looking to win yet another one. He won second in state as a freshman in the 400 meters. So if you were to take like a little bit of Tyreek Hill, a little bit of Brennan Presley, a little bit of Donnie Webb, and a little bit of Byron Eaton, John Lucas, something to that effect, then you've probably got a good sense of who Graden Hal is. And yes, whenever you're getting your recruiting uptick, it does give you a little bit of cause for concern, but Oklahoma State country seems to be fairly confident. And Taylor Skieens from SI just recently caught up with Mr. Graden Hal. And yeah, I really feel like this is a big opportunity. And this is an opportunity for Josh Holliday to pitch in a little bit here. Steve Lutz chip in a little bit here. Dave Smith chip in a little bit here. He could do multiple things in college, and we cannot let this go. This is an individual that we have to find a way to get to Stillwater, Oklahoma. I love the confidence. I appreciate the confidence, but at the same point in time, you've got to be able to lock somebody like this down. Producing over 3,000 yards of offense by himself, almost 2,000 yards passing, almost 1,100 yards rushing. He accounted for almost 20 touchdowns on the football field. Not to mention, again, he played for a baseball team that is AAA. That's the highest club level you can get. They went 26-6. They won 6 tournaments, finished second in 5 tournaments, finished third in like 2 tournaments, and he was an integral part of that baseball piece. He goes and drops a 40-burger in Dallas on the hardwood and then comes back to Broken Bow, Oklahoma. So if he were to focus on basketball, probably be a 5-star. If he were to focus on track, he could be the equivalent of a 5-star. Same goes for football. If he did football 24/7, he'd be a 5-star. How do we know that? Because he's done all of this while only playing football for like 4 years. So we talk about some of the individuals like Malik Charles that has only played football for a number of years, and his ceiling is extremely high. This is precisely what Graden Hal provides for this Oklahoma State recruiting cycle. This will be for the 2027 class, but the versatility is absolutely off the charts. And I believe the objective here is to go after him as a wide receiver at Oklahoma State, which is actually even better because you look at the Tyreek Hill, Brandon, you know what I'm talking about. the comparisons, Brennan Presley, thank you. Words are hard for me. And then you factor in Doug Meacham, who is one of the best inside wide receiver coaches in all of college football. He's proven that for the last 14 years plus. This is a very good recipe for success. And again, naturally, having the Miamis and the Arkansas of the world beating down the door does make it a little bit more difficult. But I think whatever you take into consideration from a facilities perspective, Oklahoma State does provide things that not very many people offer. I mean, traveling, I've got to see LSU, I've got to see Nebraska, I've got to see Creighton, I've got to see KU, K-State, all across the country, Texas A&M. And as far as facilities go for all of these sports, Oklahoma State is up there with the best of them. So this multi-sport athlete needs to have all hands on deck. So yes, Holiday, Lutz, Smith, Gundy, Meacham, all of them. They need to go all in on this recruit because Graden Hal might be a generational level talent. Graden Hal might have the capability of surpassing some of the things that Brennan Presley has done in Stillwater, right? The guy who leads Oklahoma State history with receptions. So he's above guys like Rashawn Woods and Dez Bryant and Hartley Dykes and James Washington and Justin Blackman. This is a special opportunity for Oklahoma State. In my opinion, if you land somebody like a Graden Hal, whatever happens the rest of the way in the in-state recruiting is almost icing on the cake. Because from an athletic prowess perspective, this dude is the best in the class, the best in the state, and he's doing it all from Broken Bow, Oklahoma. His love for his school is amazing. The fact that he knows if he focused on one of these sports, then he would likely be a five-star individual, and he doesn't care because he loves doing what he's doing. He loves rocking Broken Bow, Savage material 24/7, and I think this is huge for Oklahoma State. So going back to the SI article put out by Taylor Skieens, I love the fact that he goes through the interview process, right? Naturally, that was something that we were always privy to, but it's a little bit of a shift here. So we got to give credit where credit is due. Pokes Report put out an article about Graden recently as well. I implore you to go check out both. But what Taylor mentioned, or when he was asking questions about the recruiting aspects, the last 24 hours look like for the aspect of recruiting, Graden Hal said there hasn't necessarily been a big change in recruitment just yet, but the main thing has been schools sending graphics and messaging me. Taylor asked, you've had a handful of early trips to Stillwater over the last few months. What is it about the program that keeps you coming back for more? Graden says, every time I'm up there, it's always something new. Taylor continues, the rumors have surfaced that the Pokes may have reached out. Can you give us a hint on what was said in that conversation? Graden said, we've talked a little bit about how me and my family like being up there. They always said, I can keep looking, but I've already found my home. Taylor goes on, you showed off how special of an athlete you could be in the recent wide receiver camp and Stillwater. How has the Cowboy coaching staff kept you engaged when it comes to possible position moves? He said, I love the staff a lot. I like how it's mostly alumni on that staff, and it shows that it's more than just football in Stillwater. It's family. Furthermore, he goes on to say it is important, but it's also not too important, meaning I'd love to see my family on game days, but I'll understand that if I go somewhere too far, I will be able to handle them not being at every game. The common consensus, by reading this article, as well as an article put out by a local Broken Bow media individual, the family aspect in Stillwater could be crucial. The developmental aspect could be imperative to not only his success, but how successful we are in locking down the in-state recruiting. Graden Hal is him. Graden Hal could be him at multiple sports. And there's nobody that can get development like Rob Glass. There's nobody that has the facilities like Obrey. There's nothing that can rock like Gallagher-Iba Arena when it's truly full to capacity and fill in the vibes. Not to mention, Dave Smith has a track program that is producing top 15 national results in both men's and women's. This is an all-hands-on-deck scenario for the best athlete in the state of Oklahoma that could be a transcendence level get. Speaking of transcendence, it means a whole lot more whenever you're physically at a ball game, right? And we all know that in today's age, it's kind of difficult to financially make things work. But Game Time is the bee's knees in the ticketing industry. And if you do find a better deal in the same seat, in the same section, they're going to give you 110% of the discount. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs. There's nothing like watching the Thunder do the daggone thing, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their ever-loving minds. It's the kind of atmosphere that you must experience live. This year's matchup between the Pacers and the Thunder have already delivered everything we could have physically possibly wanted. And if you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy for you to get seats, even on the biggest playoff games imaginable. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to tip-off. And with the last-minute killer deals, the panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is the total game changer for you. The app makes it ridiculously simple. 2 taps, bada bing, bada bang, you are done. Get with the Game Time guarantee. That means that you know you're going to get that 110% differentiation if you do find a better price in the same row, in the same section. So you need to take the guesswork out of buying tickets today with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create that account, redeem that code, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time is the bee's knees for all of your ticketing needs. Get with him today. Lowest prices guaranteed. We're going to shift gears here to a preseason ranking that, of course, does not view the Cowboys very favorably. Now, typically speaking, I would say that Kelly Ford's power rankings are something that is wide known, widespread, widely respected, much like the Phil Steele stuff. But even Phil Steele has Oklahoma State at the bottom of the barrel in the Big 12, not only when it comes to potential all Big 12ers, but finishing in the bottom 3 of the conference. Evidently, the power rankings indicate that there's not a ton of power or confidence in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And you and I both know this is the best time for Oklahoma State fans, because these are the seasons that Mike Gundy finds a way to rise up from the ashes, prove the haters and the doubters wrong. All right. This is that year. And I love it. From a hammering the over perspective, we like to capitalize on monetary gains when possible. And the disrespect reverberating around the country in regards to Oklahoma State is something that we need to embrace, right? Because it's not always going to be this way. If Mike Gundy gets everything back on course and Oklahoma State has another, 8, 9, 10, 11 win style season, maybe we compete for a Big 12 title. I do think that sets us up for a completely different conversation. And it definitely sets us up to be in a position of not being able to hammer the over, of not being able to appreciate some of the disrespect, being projected to get 15th in the conference and essentially have no first, second, or third team all Big 12ers, which obviously means we have absolutely zero shot at an All-American. Naturally, some of this stuff is going to change. The talent, the cream rises to the top, right? You know that saying, something to that effect. The 2-quarterback system in Stillwater that might be available could be a good thing. The wide receiver core being unknown might be a good thing. The fact that we lost a bunch of offensive linemen that were markedly underperforming, probably a good thing. The fact that we moved on from 99.9% of the staff, essentially, probably a good thing. The new model that this staff is operating in is completely new. I love it. It's a breath of fresh air. And in my opinion, it does something to advance Mike Gundy's career and the national prestige that he's garnered, right? The man deserves a statue. The man deserves to be in the Ring of Honor. The man deserves to be in a lot of things. Actually, he probably deserves to be in the College Football Hall of Fame already, even without another Big 12 championship. But this could be that season to win one. And when you look at these rankings, another curious thing I had here was, naturally, what is the top 15? It's an SEC Big Ten love fest. So once again, the powers that be find a way to downgrade the Big 12 on an almost consistent basis. And Brett Yormark has generally done quite a few things to increase the perception of the Big 12. But embrace this stuff. So you got to go all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Oh, man, you got to go way down, actually. Where are we at? Where are we at? To find a Big 12 school, goodness me, you got to go down to number 20. in the power rankings, and they have K-State as number 20. They have Arizona State at 23, Texas Tech at 27, BYU at 30, TCU at 32, Utah at 33, Baylor at 34, Iowa State at 37, KU at 43. Then you have Kentucky, Tulane, Duke, oh my Atlanta. It goes on and on. Then you have Colorado at 51. Then you have Cincinnati at 58. You have West Virginia at 62. You have UNLV at 63. You have Oklahoma State at 64, followed by Arizona 65, Houston 66. That is the perception of where we are right now. To me, this is yet another benefit, because if you do squash all of these prognostications, this recruiting conversation has to heat up. It's all about validity. Obviously, the coaching staff, I think I'd seen in that Pokes Report article, there's another quote from Graden Hal in regards to how the staff is very exciting right now. There's a resurgence. That was the word he used. There's clearly a resurgence in the Oklahoma State football staff. And this is verbiage that we're hearing all across the country from recruits that come visit Stillwater. We just had 4-star defensive end Ben Duncombe mention that he didn't know Stillwater was that way. He didn't know the campus looked that way. He didn't know the facilities were that nice. He didn't know we had so much developmental aspects. He didn't realize what Oklahoma State offers, what Oklahoma State provides. I think Graden Hal obviously does understand that. But these power rankings don't. Phil Steele don't. ESPN don't. Athlon Sports don't. The haterade is flowing deep for anybody not rocking the orange and black, essentially. I just don't think under any circumstances, with all of the turmoil that we endured this previous season and all of the turnover that we now have with the influx of talent, we have some former 5-star All-Americans that have come over from places like LSU, Ohio State, Tennessee. That has to matter. We have linebacker that were projected to be drafted before coming to Oklahoma State. That's a risk. That has to matter. We had NFL roster cuts, and we got rid of several dudes that were not only contributors last season, but some of them were primary contributors to any amount of success that we did have on the field. We revamped everything. We have individual coaches on the offensive line, 3 of them. We have individual coaches for linebackers, 3 of them. We have a nickel coach, a DB coach, a CB coach, a safety coach. The professionalism running around Stillwater, Oklahoma right now is very visible. Yet, we have these rankings, whether they be overall rankings, top 100 entering the season rankings, top Big 12 rankings. Oklahoma State isn't really on any of them. So this is, in my opinion, one of the funnest seasons we could physically possibly have. Because when the expectations are down, Mike Gundy is the cream that rises to the top. And I've sipped on some Gundy haterade. That 2022 debacle in the locker room and the Spencer Sanders saga and some of the things that were promised and pulled out from under some of the play. There's just so many things going on in 2022 that I felt like it might be time to kind of look at a new direction. 2023 obviously was a pretty fun ride with what we now realize is a somewhat inadequate team from a talent perspective. We won a lot of close games, but 2024 was a disaster. A disaster that could have been a good thing. I did say at one point in time that the remarkable 2021 season was not a good thing because it gave a false sense of security to Mike Gundy that he could let other coaches run things at times for him and it would be smooth sailing. Now, thankfully, the transfer market, the NIL, the Board of Regents, the 3-9 season, there's a lot of factors that played into Mike Gundy having a revolutionary moment, which is getting rid of everybody, hiring a head coach on the defense to do his own thing, call his own plays, recruit his own guys, and do it his own way, and pay him Power 4 head coach money. The NIL has jumped fairly dramatically. We knew how difficult it was to come up with all of the funds for Ollie Gordon and the offensive line and Nick Martin and Colin Oliver and Kendall Daniels and da-da-da-da-da. Now we're having people kind of come out of the woodwork to see Oklahoma State get back where they're supposed to be. Mike Gundy needs to go out on top. He needs to go out, whether it's this year, next year, 2 years from now, whatever the case may be. Gundy has done more than enough to go out as a dude. 10-win, 11-win, 12-win style season, put up the statue, announce the retirement. But you can't go out 3-9. So I'm glad that, he had the Board of Regents thing situated. I'm glad that we brought in this staff. You're seeing on the recruiting trail that things are different. The feeling is different. The campus is different. The recruiting is different. The coaching is way different. Rob Glass is about the only thing that's staying the same. And when you do have the number one strength coach in the country making $1.1 million, it's probably not a bad thing. We have so many capabilities to squash the haterade, to hammer the over, to put money on the Big 12 title game, to put money on over 5.5 wins, 4.5 wins, 6.5 wins. I don't even think it matters at this point in time. The schedule is advantageous for a 7-basement win season. The talent, if they get back to what they were doing at their previous schools before injury, so we're coming out of high school, a lot of these dudes have not reached their full potential. If they can do that in Stillwater, this power ranking is garbage. The Phil Steele, bottom 3 of the conference, it's garbage. The ESPN projecting nothing successful is garbage. The people putting out another 3-win season, maybe a 4-win season, it's all hot garbage. And this is a perfect time for Mike Gundy and this new staff to prove it. The intricacies of both the new offense and the new defense are going to take some time. It's going to be a little bit of a trial by fire situation, but the athleticism is there. Speed does kill, and we have tons and tons of speed, and we're recruiting somebody like Graden Hal, who has tons and tons of speed. You remember my dad can beat up your dad? Well, our quarterback can probably outrun your quarterback on a regular basis. So there's that. Our track and field star quarterback, Haas Haney, can definitely run up and down the field with wide receivers, as can Graden Hal. But more importantly, you have to be healthy enough to do that. And this got sparked because I'd heard recently that OU fired a lot of their medical staff, and they brought in a lot of individuals to completely revamp it because they were having some issues with maybe some improper rehab or diagnosing things a little bit differently than they should have, or missing a fracture on an x-ray, causing you to have to go to a different hospital, different place, different venue, whatever the case, sometimes a different state. And then I remembered we've had players go through similar situations. One of the only reasons I didn't jump on, Trace Ford is a fake Cowboy, blah, 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 train ride, is because I'd heard from someone in his family that the only reason he left Stillwater was because of the medical issues. He'd get one diagnosis, then another diagnosis, and have a surgery just to have another surgery, and it was very problematic. And then he goes to OU, and it wasn't necessarily a whole lot better. So what did OU do? They go out and get somebody who has several years of NFL experience, working with the Saints, working with the Texans, working with other big-time colleges, getting degrees from some of the most prestigious places in the country. And then I compared it to Oklahoma State, and it was very underwhelming. So then I looked at Houston, then I looked at Texas Tech, then I looked at Kansas State. And I'm not a medical expert. I don't know. But I do know that this is never talked about. It's never discussed. We talk about the weight training. We talk about Rob Glass. We talk about Mike Gundy. We talk about the success. We talk about the facilities. We talk about the fans. But we never talk about the medical stuff. I mean, look at Talon Shetron. The dude cannot get healthy to save his life. And that stinks for him because he's an NFL level individual. Spencer Sanders was playing hurt 75+% of the time because we just couldn't figure things out on a consistent basis. If I recall correctly, Dylan Stoner had some medical issues here and there that were not caught. Zane Flores, we didn't catch his heel issue until what, like week 12? Knowing that he'd had a little bit of an issue all year, essentially. And now we've got, another player that broke something in the spring. It wasn't serious. It didn't look to be serious. It didn't seem to be a big deal. Then they had another scan, and yeah, same thing. All right, you're going to be good, right? You'll rehab it, ice it. You're going to be fine. You'll be ready to go. And then he goes, a couple hours away for another scan, and sure enough, it is beyond broken. He needs metal implanted in his body, and he's going to be out for a hot minute now. So I'm not saying that, misdiagnosis doesn't happen. It does. It happens all the time, all over the country. So that's not exactly an issue. But it would be an issue if it's repetitive. It could be an issue if your competition is going and getting trainers and doctors from the NFL and you're sticking with local dudes that didn't even graduate from Oklahoma State. I wonder if this is something that we take seriously. You remember the new athletic village that was proposed with NIL? That probably changes all of that. But nonetheless, part of that was a state-of-the-art medical facility. And they were going to be able to have so much advanced technology that they're going to be able to do surgery right there on campus whenever. Right? That's the vision. And I wonder if we can get there, because our sports medicine consistently does have some of these issues that has caused problems, and it has been one of the main culprits to some of these transfers. But it's not talked about, right? We're predispositioned to believe that he just wasn't loyal and true, or he wasn't tough enough, or he couldn't stick it out, or he was homesick, or, yada, yada. He didn't like where he was on the depth chart. We're preconditioned to assume those things are all accurate. Yet whenever it's injury-related transfers or injury-related issues, of course, we don't talk about it. And I always thought it was just because Mike Gundy wanted to speak from a degree of anonymity when it came to injuries, just in case he got some stuff wrong. But the more I dig, the more I wonder if the reason we don't talk about injuries is because we actually don't always know what the injury is. And sometimes we think we know, but maybe we're not super confident. Maybe we have multiple versions of rehab plans for the same injury that are predicated upon that particular athlete. Maybe that is all the case. But whenever I looked at Oklahoma State staff, it was like a Northeastern State grad or something to that effect, who has a few years under his belt, but nothing major. And then, like I said, OU's got all these NFL dudes. Houston, they've got a guy that graduated from Texas, and he also graduated from Dartmouth. And Cincinnati's got a dude that was part of like the John Hopkins Style Center or something to that effect. And he was with Auburn for 8 years. He spent some time in the NFL doing some physical training stuff also. A lot of these are doctors that have been heads of hospitals previously. So I'm not saying that our guy's not the right guy. I'm not saying that our staff isn't the right staff. But I am saying this is a yearly occurrence. And I wonder if OU is willing to wholesale change everybody because they know it's a big problem. Why would we not do the same? If we are covered, why not tell everybody we don't need to do that because our staff is better than everybody else's? I don't know. Food for thought. Anywho, so we're going to have this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State, because you could go anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. The podcasting people out there, you are everything that makes this work. I appreciate you. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. Later, my taters.